Hey guys, Malagant here. So there's going to be some sort of like an update. It's my Paladin. This Paladin right over here, I leveled it up today just for like leveling practice. So both the gear and the levels are not necessarily there whatsoever. It's just like fresh starts. I have an empty stash as well, so empty stash, empty crafting materials, etc. Like complete fresh starts just to like simulate the cycle starts. And I've been practicing. But right after seeing the patch notes yesterday, I'm a little bit like more honing in to what I want to do. Obviously still didn't get to like try out the healing hands because like it doesn't exist in the game yet, but like now in last Epoch 2s we were able to like see the skill points, the skill distribution, and like what it is capable of giving. Apparently like it's capable of becoming like a mobility, a traversal ability, and I kind of want to do that actually. So I'm going to be probably taking out like my sigils of hope for the healing hand, I want to say. And at the same time, the first time that I was talking about this is that like I didn't really have like the Holy Trail scaling in my mind. I was more about going towards like the Sacred Forge in combination with Pious Offering. And I do believe it is still like the, highest amount of damage that you can reach. So if you're going to be making a Paladin like this, if you're obsessed with numbers, right? You kind of want to like do Judgment into Pious Offering, max it out, to a point where it's not necessarily that annoying for you. Because hold that in your mind for now. So that's like definitely the best DPS. Probably the spec is probably going to be able to put the Pious Offering in combination of like reversal, using it at the right time, of course, and in combination of like Holy Trail, especially buffing the judgments, your next judgment. So like judgments into Holy Trail into judgments, right? And then afterwards volatile reversal. So the interesting part about that, like as I said, annoying part for me was that like you use the judgment and then you need to volatile reversal immediately because you have like 600 or something mana, which by the way 600 mana is not a lot either. Like when you go for Pious Offering, you want to go as high as possible mana, and you can get to like 900ish mana with like very good committal. And then what ends up happening is that the Pious Offering is spending all of your mana, and like according to how much you spend, it multiplies your damage, and now you deal insane amounts of damage. You deal really good damage for the most cases. But now you're so what you need to do is every time you cast a judgment, now you need to also volatile reversal. Now comes the importance of cooldown reduction, you see? So now you're introducing not only mana, but also cooldown reduction to your build. I really started not liking that. And on top of that, the playstyle of like, okay, I'm kind of getting low on mana, I shouldn't have pressed this kind of approach, and at the same time, there's this like rubber bandy feeling, like you're running in a monolith. I need you to understand this, okay? You're running in a monolith. This right over here is like, if anything, you don't want this to be your screen clear, simply because it's a stationary thing. It has a 3-second cooldown every use, and monsters don't really align like that. There's no such thing, okay? So they're like everywhere, right? So you want this to be your screen clear, right? So that like you can go through them and they will die. And you have the damage, don't get me wrong, you have more than enough damage. But the problem is, now since you want to screen clear with this, you hit the floor, and every time you hit the floor, since you're now, you need to gain all of your mana back with a reversal, okay? So every judgment cast is also a reversal cast, in short, okay? So there's this rubber bandy feeling then, because like you're running judgment, reversal. Do you see what happened? Every single cast. So this got to me. I really, really dislike it. And not only that, but also like, as I said, you're introducing 2 new stats. Normally my character don't really care about those stats at all. Just because I clicked here, Pious Offering, now I need to care about maximum mana, above all, by the way, above everything else. And this is lots of prefix nodes or different item bases. It's actually insane commitment. The more you can have, the more damage you will have. And granted, it will deal more damage than my character will ever do. Like, no questions asked. And then obviously cooldown reduction on the volatile reversal. Big cooldown reduction. So you're using new bases of rings as well. Granted, maybe I'll still use them. Yeah, Opal rings, we'll see. So that out of the way, you probably understood my point of view. So I'm deciding to not go for Pious Offering, therefore I don't really need to go for Sacred Forge either. What I do is like I keep this on the lower end of sides, right? So I will try to like have this as my screen clear, right? And I'm going to be using this for my single targets, more single target, let's say. Obviously, we'll be using everything for my single targets. Is my DPS right now fine? I mean, we're normal monoliths, of course it's fine. I'm deleting things. But is it going to be fine and empowered? Probably, because I have like really bad gear right now, so it's probably going to be so much better than this, you know. And at the same time, I'm level 66 and I mostly click like defensive options, you know me, while I'm leveling, so that like I don't necessarily need to take care of my defenses from like other ways. So yeah, the DPS is looking like this in the monolith that we're in, and they're almost not really surviving. Like as I'm passing through, they're dying, and that's the most important thing, right? As I said, like don't care about the numbers too much right now, because like they're drastically going to be changing for sure. And so we are using like the righteous righteous fire, the judgment's consecrating aura, right? That's the aura that's around me. We're using that to like screen clear. We're going to be using this guy over here for single target, basically, the flame. Even though like I couldn't really like hit this guy. If we are going to be fighting something like beefy at the end, it would be kind of nice, so that like we can show the single target DPS at least at like level 60 as well. It would be kind of nice, but apparently we're just going to be fighting this. Alright, so that out of the way, another thing is that, like, I don't have a traversal, right, guys? So that is something else that we are going to be changing. That's very interesting. So we are going to be trying out, instead of... You see, for instance, like, I didn't press Sigils of Hope, right? And I had one buff of Sigil while we were fighting all this thing. So at the end of the day, even though Sigils are, like, really, really good on paper, right? Unless I manually cast it, which I kind of don't want to at all. It has a 6% chance to like buff me, and then it needs to like, you know, keep on proccing back to back so that like it has 4 stacks of sigils on me, and then it is obviously on paper it's insane. But most of the time versus like a, you know, monolith boss, I don't really press it, and then like there's nothing that I kill that's gonna like proc a sigil, and then at the same time over there like we fought lots of things and I had only like 1 sigil, so it's very, very, you know, RNG. So I'm going to be dropping the sigil, and we're going to be taking Healing Hands. The Healing Hand is capable of like actually scaling. I'll tab here because I have something prepared for you. Right over here in the skills, the Healing Hand is going to be scaling with exactly the same thing again, guys. It's going to be scaling with your healing effectiveness. So what sort of like, you know, stats do we care about? I want to show something about the character right over here, but before we jump into that, so the damage from the Healing Hand is going to be fire. It's not going to be damage over time. So it will be like direct, I think, but I need to play the game once with this thing to understand like exactly what's going on. And then we are going to be like dashing at a target location. And then at the end of the dash, I think it will like do this like splash effect, and the area is going to be pretty big because of like this and that. So there's something really interesting going on here. It says like cast speed minus 32%. In return, it's like giving us more healing, more damage, so it's like double dipping damage, right? Since like this is also giving damage from healing, so it's like damage plus healing, so it's double dipping damage, and then more area as well, and then there's more area over here. So I want to see that splash to be like very big. I expect it to be, but I'll see if the cast speed is going to be very annoying or not. Perhaps the cast speed is going to mean that like I will be moving slow. If that's going to be the case, I won't like it. Definitely, we'll see. So this definitely deserves some testing, and by itself it also has some like healing effectiveness. It's just absolutely nuts, honestly. It's looking incredibly good here. Okay, so I want to show you something about the character. Look over here. I have relics that are giving me health and effectiveness, healing effectiveness, nothing else. I have just white items on me, okay? Literally. Just white items, bases, right? I would like you to look at my resistances. These are my resistances, right? And this is my armor. Armor mitigation is 67%. I mean, obviously I'm level 100, right? Like I have all the passives. So I've taken all the passives, right? And so I suppose like that's one thing that's a little bit extreme, right? Let's make it like level 895. Okay, let's make it level 95, and let's make it level 90. I'm thinking about like where I put my last points real quickly. Probably right over here if I have to guess. It depends like how my character is playing, honestly. Like it could be over here as well. It kind of depends how my character is playing, but the point is like armor is not going to go away because it's one of the first things that I take, which is this one, the Sanctuary Guardian, and this one, the Faith Armor. They go hand to hand and they're incredible while leveling as well. And for the 8 game too. I want to get to, like with this character, I want to get to the cap armor mitigation. I really value armor. And look at my resistances. Like this is absolutely insane, honestly, with this type of gear, this type of character. And if you think that like Holy Aura is active right now, it's not. It's passive right now. So if you like activate that, it's going to be even higher, as you can see. Yeah. So it's even like the, you know, passive side of things while we are walking around. So this was the thing that I wanted to show. This link is going to be down below, obviously. And we're going to improve on this. I'll jump into not Southbound. I'll jump into multiplayer hardcore, I suppose, how you call it. And I'm going to be Circle of Fortune. You can clearly add me as a friend in the game. It's going to be called Malagant, I think I want to say. And you can find me streaming every day as well. And I'll be making more content, obviously, coming to YouTube as well. But, so let's talk about the patch a little bit. There is this things that like surprised me, right? 2 things. One of them is going to be the monos, and the other thing are going to be the bases. So I was not expecting those 2 changes. They're definitely more than welcome. You know me, like I really like bases in this game. And look at my necklace. The blue one is my necklace, guys. I told you my items were really bad. Anyways, so item bases, there are going to be like so many new item bases, it seems like, and like right over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have like 5 new item bases that is like, you know, does not exist in the game right now. Like it needs the patch, you know. So it's absolutely insane, and that's definitely welcome. Like I've went ahead and like updated my loot filter as well. So we are going to be like searching for these bases immediately at like level 8 something. And I was not really expecting them to introduce this many bases. And they're like very, very strong, most of them at least. And thanks to like new bases, and since they didn't remove the old bases, you know, the level gap between the item bases, I said bases so many times, is like shrinking. So like this means more valuable loot faster coming your way, right? So like it's kind of a cool thing, definitely. The other thing was like monoliths. That kind of surprised me. I was not really expecting such an approach from them, but they're making these mods a little bit like more normalized, and they're making it so that like the corruption is going to be, you know, drastically making the game more difficult. So empowered is going to be harder to push higher, but normal monoliths perhaps is going to be a little bit easier. And at the same time, they're also like normalizing the mob density between like these certain different like echo types. You know what I mean? That's definitely more than welcome. And these mods, they are going to be normalized, as I said, so they're not going to be rolling too high. So for instance, if elemental damage over here, for instance, it says like elemental damage 50%, if this thing is just going to make it up 35% in the new patch, it will always be 35% everywhere you can find it. So everywhere you can find it, it will always be elemental damage increase 35. So it doesn't matter if you're like 800 corruption, very far away from the middle, it will never ever higher roll. The same thing can be said for like the mods repeating. So like when you're farther away and when you're in empowered, you were able to like find 7 rounds of like something, for instance. Now it's going to be much less, I think. So it's not going to be repeating all the time with multiple different echoes. It will be less. So what this is going to try and do is that like while the end game's difficulty and while the bosses are going to be almost still as difficult, it is trying to make it so that like you don't necessarily need to like, can I do this, can I do that, let me see which one can I run right now, what is the best one to run, you know. It's trying to like remove this like picking feeling, you know what I mean, the scared of going here kind of thing. So if you're capable of like doing the timeline they want you to feel that like, okay, this Echo is a little bit different than the other one, and perhaps like you should be a little bit more careful with like elemental damage on this one, and perhaps the other one you should be, you know, taking a little bit longer to kill them because they have more HP. But if your character is capable of doing the timeline, they want you to be able to do the entire thing. You know what I mean? Which is a good approach, definitely. So no cherry picking of like echoes anymore. At least not as much as before. There will probably be certainly some cherry picking because you probably still don't want to be stacking damage back to back. Definitely, especially in power. But it will be much less than before. And this is so welcome. So 2 changes I was not expecting. We already knew about Falconer, Warlock. We already knew about the, you know, optimization and graphical changes, new UI, you know. I was expecting actually UI and map and there's one more thing, quest improvements. I was really expecting those. So I'm glad to hear that too. I suppose like they didn't really tease that before. I think they might have talked about shadows, and they might have even like showed some gameplay, but I don't really recall right now. But yeah, I think this is where I'm going to be calling this video. So this character is still not complete. I'm gonna share this thing right over here. So the passives right over here are more than likely complete. I think I'm going to be playing like this. The skills, however, I will probably be playing like this if I end up liking Healing Hands. Okay. If I feel like Healing Hands is underwhelming and I don't really like this, I could even put Lunge over here, but I could turn back to, you know, the sigils as well. And in that case, this is pretty interesting. If I really, really like Healing Hands, and if I end up finding that very reliable mobility, perhaps I'm going to take some point of the Light of Raya and put into something else a little bit more offensive. Definitely, it's entirely possible, 100%. One little addition, if you want to go all out damage on judgments, okay, if you want to do like the massive amounts of damage from your consecrating aura, okay, the biggest damage, so you want to like stack as much mana as possible, and then you want to go max out the Pious Offering, and you need to press Volatile Reversal every time. Obviously don't take this node so that like you will regenerate mana after using Volatile Reversal, right? So you go like 800 something mana, you cast your Holy Trail first, right? This guy, Sacred Forge, it buffs like your next judgment multiplicatively like 60% or something. So like you throw your Javelin and then you hit the floor with the judgment, your Consecrating Aura is up, immediately Volatile Reversal. These things, everything is combined, it is fine. But there's one more very interesting and a tricky thing. If you can pull this off, it's going to be insane. It is the Crushing Blows. Increases the damage 1 mana cost per point. So per 2 mana that you spent, it's going to be giving you 1% damage, right? And this thing is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And guess what? It's like obviously with 1 click right now. So it's going to be 3% for 1 mana at the end. It's just like 800, 3%. Like how much is that even? You know what I mean? It just becomes insane. But how do you get to Crushing Blows while taking Volatile Reversal over here? So like 5 points into Endurance is needed. And then at the same time, you know, taking some value out of like your Paladin tree. I'll leave that to you to decide. And with that in mind, I think I'm going to call it. Thank you for watching, YouTube. I'm going to catch you next time. Peace out. Enjoy the launch. Enjoy Last Epoch. Really looking forward to the launch.